So again, they gave $40 billion. They're giving $40 billion to the military-industrial complex under the guise of helping people in Ukraine. Just like we were helping people in Iraq, just like we were helping people in Libya, just like we're helping people in Syria right now by occupying their oil fields, just like we're helping people in Yemen by bombing them and killing them and committing a genocide, just like we're helping people in Somalia, just like we're helping people in Ethiopia by backing terrorists who are overthrowing an elected government, just like we're helping people in Afghanistan. Now we're helping people in Ukraine. And the only one to stand up against it is a right-winger who I'm told is a white supremacist maniac. Rand Paul. Rand Paul stalls the $40 billion aid in Ukraine, breaking with Mitch McConnell. He's willing to stand up against his party leadership. You know who isn't? The Democrats. Bernie Sanders is not willing to do that. Bernie Sanders didn't put a hold on this bill so we could have oversight over it. Bernie Sanders is a good boy. Bernie Sanders is a good boy who will never fucking fight for you, ever. Bernie Sanders is a good boy who got his mind right. And he will never cross Joe Biden. He will never cross the Democratic Party because he'll never cross the billionaire donor class that runs this country. Bernie Sanders is there, just like the squad, to get the revolutionary progressive energy and funnel it back into a dead-end party that is pro-war and anti-worker. That's called the Democratic Party. And shame on Bernie Sanders for doing that gutless coward. And he won't even take a question from a guy like Kyle Kalinske about it. That's what a coward he is. And here is a guy standing up. And the libs, the shit libs, are such shit libs, they can't even have a nice thing to say about him. They're not even upset that Bernie Sanders didn't do this. Let's remind everybody, once again, here's Julian Assange to remind us what the actual point of the Libyan war, of the Iraq war, of the Afghanistan war, of now the Ukraine war. What is the point of all these? This is the point of it.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
That's the real point of the Ukraine war, to take money out of the U.S. Treasury and give it to the international, what did he call it? The transnational military state? I don't even know what he calls it. But it's to give it to the military-industrial complex. That's what this is all about. So this is all about. Here's what Glenn Greenwald said. He says, I defy anyone to read the Rand Paul thread, a summary of the Senate speech he gave, and argue that he's wrong. Even if you support flooding Ukraine with endless U.S. money and weapons, the amounts are staggering. The risks of escalation severe. Shouldn't there at least be oversight? So here's what Rand Paul said. He said, my oath of office is to the United States Constitution, not to any foreign nation. Congress is trying yet again to ram through a spending bill, one that I doubt anyone has actually read. And there's no oversight included into how money is being spent. All I requested is an amendment to be included in the final bill that allows for the Inspector General to oversee how funds are spent. Anyone who is opposed to this is irresponsible. He's 100% right about that. While I sympathize with the people of Ukraine and commend their fight against Putin, we cannot continue to spend money we don't have. Passing this bill brings the total we've spent to Ukraine to nearly $54 billion over the course of 2 months. Over the course of 2 months, $54 billion. Do you know that's almost as much as the Russian government spends on their entire military for an entire year? Russian military spends around $60 billion in an entire year on their entire military. We just spent $54 billion in 2 months on one country called Ukraine. That's what we're doing. It's threatening our own national security, and it's frankly a slap in the face to millions of taxpayers who are struggling to buy gas and groceries and find baby formula. Doesn't that sound like something AOC and Bernie Sanders should be saying? But guess who they're not saying it? Guess who is? Rand Paul, a guy who I'm told is a nut, Trumper, white supremacist. Then why aren't you doing better than him? You guys are doing shittier than a guy you call a white supremacist? You guys are doing shittier than that guy. Well, what's the fucking point of you? I'd like to replace all of you with Rand Pauls right now. Why is it Rand Paul is the only one standing up for free speech?
Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Are you familiar with McNamara, the Pentagon Papers? Are you familiar with George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction? Are you familiar with Iran-Contra? I mean, think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech. You think we can't determine, speech by traffickers is disinformation? You think the American people are so stupid they need you to tell them what the truth is? You can't even admit what the truth is with the Steele dossier. I don't trust government to figure out what the truth is. Government is largely disseminating disinformation.
Why is it, again, this crazy right-wing Trumper white supremacist is the only one saying shit that a lefty should be saying? That's a lefty position. Why aren't they saying it? Because they're bought, they're corrupt, and you're a chump for voting for them, and you're a bigger chump for donating money to them. And that doesn't make you a nihilist. That makes you a courageous revolutionary, which is what this country needs right now. We need enough people to stop participating in this goddamn corrupt system, this two-party duopoly. It doesn't make you a nihilist. It makes you a coward nihilist to call those people nihilists. To go along with this makes you a coward nihilist. To keep doing the same thing over and over, it also makes you crazy. Because that's the definition of insane. And that's called gaslighting. So when you see somebody with a YouTube show telling you to keep funding and voting for Democrats, even in the face of this shit, that's the nihilist. And that's a coward. Because it takes balls to stand up. And those people haven't had balls in their whole life. They've never stood up for anything against anything ever when it would have cost them. Ever. Do you think we're nihilists, Jackson? For being anti-war and not wanting to participate in this pro-war party?
No, but that's how they always want to phrase it. That's how the mainstream media wants to phrase it too. They come after Rand Paul and they're condemning him and saying, oh, Rand Paul, he's preventing $40 billion in Ukraine aid from going through. Well, it's not aid for Ukraine. It's a slush fund, right? It's a slush fund that's going to be funneled into the pockets of these Ukrainian oligarchs, back into the pockets of and the political campaign donations of Democratic Party elites. That's where this money's going. And Rand Paul is right on the money, right on the money. He said, we can't save Ukraine. If you do think that this money is sent to save Ukraine, we can't save Ukraine by bankrupting the United States and crashing our economy. And he's right on the money.
So here's that poem I teased in that other segment, but I'll read it to you now. It's by Gil Scott Heron. It was written in 1970, right around when we first went to the moon. When did we first go to the moon? 68? What year was that? So here's the poem. It says, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now, I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know, the man just upped my rent last night because Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, because Whitey's on the moon? Well, I was already giving him $50 a week, and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies making me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell, and Whitey's on the moon. With all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon, how come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, airmail special, to Whitey on the moon. To Whitey on the moon, thank you. So that could be written today. And you could just switch Whitey's on the moon and Whitey's funding Ukraine. Just switch it to Whitey's funding Ukraine, because all those problems still exist. People are economically devastated, especially now after that goddamn stupid COVID lockdown.